affordability crisis in Metro Vancouver is forcing individuals and families to make some very difficult choices. And with a growing population, congestion is increasingly affecting our way of life. And all of these issues have really formed the foundation upon which Transport 2050 was set. So today, we're here to detail our priorities for urgently needed transit and transportation investments over the next 10 years, with a goal of addressing some of the greatest challenges of our generation. Over the course of 3 years, we worked tirelessly with Indigenous nations, the Regional Mayor's Council, senior government partners, stakeholders, business leaders, our employees, and importantly, members of the public to conduct TransLink's largest ever public engagement. And through this process, we learned that there is an urgent and widespread need for more transit and more transportation choices, especially rapid transit across the region to meet our shared goals. And that brought us to introduce a collective vision for the region known as Transport 2050, which was adopted nearly 3 months ago. Today, we take the next step to achieving that vision by introducing Transport 2050 10-year priorities, our proposed list of Transport 2050 investments that we should advance in the next decade. It's our plan for making transportation better for everyone, no matter who you are or how you travel. And it will deliver on the 5 Transport 2050 goals to make moving in the region more convenient, reliable, affordable, safe and comfortable, and carbon-free. The plan we're releasing today will invest in convenient, reliable, safe, and comfortable transit. It will build out the reliable and fast transit network, including new rapid transit and express and interregional connections. And it will support people-first streets and walking, biking, and rolling. There are so many incredibly important initiatives for our future, but let me take a moment and highlight a few. Through this plan, we're going to double local bus service in the region. That means more routes in your communities, higher frequencies, and better service. And service to new areas that previously did not have any transit service at all. Through this plan, we're going to help build hundreds of kilometers of bikeways within urban centers and at least 450 kilometers of new traffic-separated cycling paths connecting urban centers, getting us 75% of the way to completing the major bikeway network outlined in Transport 2050. And I do want to thank Erin Millen, our Executive Director of Upcycling, and her team for their support on developing this network concept to us here today. So thank you, Erin. We will increase HandyDART service by 60% and make it available 24 hours a day. And we're going to build over 150 kilometers of new rapid transit, more than doubling the amount of rapid transit in Metro Vancouver that we have today. And our priorities include introducing bus rapid transit, a new zero-emission bus-based rapid transit technology on up to 9 priority corridors across the region. We will bring rapid transit to the North Shore. We will build the Burnaby Mountain Gondola to Simon Fraser University and extend the Millennium Line from Arbutus Street all the way to the University of British Columbia. Through T2050, we heard loud and clear that we need to provide more high-quality rapid transit options, and that we need to do it as quickly as possible. And once final, we are committed to working with senior governments to fund the priorities through future investment plans and to make it a reality. And I encourage you to visit translink.ca/priorities, read the proposed priorities, and please give us your feedback and let us know what you think. The 10-year priorities really puts us on a path to easing congestion, lowering greenhouse gas emissions, and better connecting communities to jobs and housing. I want to thank you for your time, and it is my pleasure to pass the mic to Mayor's Council Chair Jonathan Coe.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin, and it is a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Mayor's Council to help introduce and launch Transport 2050, the 10-year priority plan. Now, I'd like to also begin this morning by recognizing and acknowledging that we are on the traditional and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. I think it's also important to recognize that TransLink services a territory with 10 Indigenous nations, and Although we're here today to talk about the long-term vision for transportation planning and the path for our future, we know that that path has to include reconciliation and has to include our Indigenous partners. Now, in 2014, the Mayor's Council adopted its 10-year vision. And at that time, that was a really bold vision to expand public transportation and sustainable transportation in the Metro Vancouver region. Since that time, a lot has changed in our region, and a lot of really important investments and improvements have been made. We have launched a new rapid bus system in 5 different parts of our region. We are seeing SkyTrain expansion occur along the Broadway corridor and soon to occur in Surrey along the Fraser Highway corridor. We've also seen improvements on our bus service, Handy Dart, and even just behind me, with the additional new C-Bus being added, we're now able to offer 10-minute C-Bus service. This plan was bold, but it was needed in our region, and it has resulted in significant improvements to our transportation system. Before the Vancouver was leading in transit ridership growth for the 5 previous years there, which really demonstrated the importance and key to making these investments and how they can translate in changing the transportation options in our region. Now, we recognize the last few years have been incredibly challenging with the pandemic, and transit agencies all across the world have really struggled with the pandemic and changing ridership. And although these have been difficult years, we are starting to see life come back to our transit system. And I think one of the most important decisions that we made over the last few years as a region was to stay committed to our long-term planning and our commitment to really building a transit and sustainable transportation city here in Metro Vancouver. And out of that work came the development of Transport 2050, which really set a bold vision for our region. Really looked to tackle some of the key issues that continue to and will continue to be hugely important in our region, from the climate emergency, from the growing affordability challenges that we face in Metro Vancouver, let alone the fact that we are a region that is going to see significant population growth and employment growth. The reality is we need a transportation system that is going to be able to address all of these challenging issues, and that's why it was more important than ever to ensure that we continue with our long-range planning and development of Transport 2050. Now, Transport 2050 was an important plan that was adopted unanimously by the Mayor's Council several months ago, earlier this year. But we know we need to go further. We need to actually make that plan real and tangible. And this is our first step towards doing that today. Really, to make Transport 2050 real and on the ground, we need to identify what are the priorities that we're going to work on in the next 10 years. Now, Kevin did an excellent job talking about a whole variety of transit improvements that this plan outlines there. But I think one area that always draws a lot of attention is really the need to improve and expand our rapid transit network here in Metro Vancouver. This is going to be critical in the future to make sure that we're connecting all of our communities in the region. Now, the plan outlined today certainly does play on a lot of the successes that we have in the past. As a region, we know how SkyTrain has served our region, and it really is an important way to move people in this region. And the plan that we're putting forward today does contemplate some further expansion in SkyTrain to UBC and to further study areas connecting potentially to the North Shore or potentially even south of the Fraser as well too. But in developing this plan, I think we also recognize that we need to do rapid transit differently in this region. And that's why this plan really does contemplate looking at bus rapid transit as an alternative form to be able to quickly, cost-effectively be able to expand rapid transit in a way we've never seen, and at this pace we have never seen in this region here. Other areas in the major cities in the world have experimented and seen great successes in a cost-effective way of being able to deliver rapid transit in a way that is, in many cases, of the same quality and amenities as SkyTrain, but done in a way that can be done much faster. So overall, I'm incredibly excited about the opportunity to really expand in a quick way our rapid transit network over the next 10 years. Now, overall, I'm incredibly excited about the launch today. It really does include improvements in all aspects of transportation, from walking and cycling to regular bus service, all the way up to rapid transit, which I just talked about. It also reaches all areas of our region. We need to recognize that growth is happening in all aspects of Metro Vancouver, and we need to make sure that we're providing transportation options in all parts of Metro Vancouver. Now, this is a bold plan. This is a significant plan that is going to require significant investments and commitments, and it's going to require all three levels of government to partner. Over the last number of years, we've seen tremendous successes in partnering between federal, provincial, and local governments to be able to help expand our transit system, and these are partnerships that are going to have to grow into the future. We recognize that this plan is going to take some significant investments, and that's going to require a new way of looking at funding transportation and a new commitment by all three levels of government to be able to partner to make this happen. So in conclusion, I'm incredibly excited to be here on behalf of the Mayor's Council to really help launch Transport 2050, the next 10-year priorities. The last Mayor's 10-year vision was incredibly successful in providing a good roadmap and keeping the region focused on our priorities. And I am very optimistic that this plan will do the same for this region as well. So with that, I think myself, Kevin, and Sarah are now open for any questions that people might have.
Now to the Q&A portion. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. And Patrick has a roaming mic, so we'll just come to you and you can speak in the microphone. So we'll do the Q&A portion for the people on the floor first before opening the phone lines. So if there's anybody on the floor, I can see a hand raised there. Sorry, I can't see who you are. Mike will make its way over to you.
Joel Ballard, CBC. I think either of you can answer this one, actually. It's always exciting to see what these future plans are going to be, but the big question that everyone has is how much is this going to cost? I know we don't have an exact figure yet because so many of the details are still being figured out, but are you able to give us a ballpark of what we can expect for if we are to achieve this 10-year plan?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think we want to be upfront that this is a bold plan that is talking about significant investments in public transit in the Metro Vancouver region. The last Mayor's 10-year vision at its time was a bold vision, and what we're contemplating here is really actually doubling down and doubling what the last Mayor's 10-year vision would really try to accomplish there. So we are not at the point where we have the specific funding for the overall plan, and that will come in various phases as we take this work and turn it into fully funded investment plans. But we do want to be upfront that this is a whole vision that is going to require significant investments in our transportation to really help transform how our region moves and how our transportation system can be changed in the future.
Okay, we'll follow. You talked, or could you tell me more about the decision to focus less on the big shiny projects like SkyTrains and focus on these rapid bus transits, sort of get that change in focus?
Yeah, well, I think definitely this plan does have a bus focused approach to that, and that was no accident. I think the reality is we recognize we have a number of challenges, and we want to be able to move quickly. We want to move as effectively, as cost effectively as possible. And the reality is a lot of the bus solutions in rapid transit can be done a lot more cost effectively and would allow us to be able to reach far more parts of our region. We know there are lots of really important transit corridors that need better transit, need rapid transit in the region. But if we were to wait for SkyTrain to be able to fill in that, the reality is we'd probably be sitting here 100 years from now, still not being able to fully complete that. So really, this is about us being able to move faster to be able to improve transit across the region in a much more quickly and cost-effective manner. I don't know if you have any.
Do you have another follow-up, Joel? No. Anybody else on the floor? I can't really see you, but put your hand up and the mic will come here. Yeah, I can see you in there in the back.
Oh, hi, Francis from Metro Canada. I just have a question. BRT has existed elsewhere for many years. It's proved that it was efficient. So why, this option existed before, so why are you switching to that strategy now when in the past it's always been about SkyTrain, expanding SkyTrain or the railways?
Yeah, well, I think SkyTrain has served the Metro Vancouver region well, and it really will remain the spine of our rapid transit system into the future there. But I think what we really recognize is there is a strong ambition to move faster and quicker and get to a broader reach there. And I think as we really dug into trying to look into our long range plans, we said, how can we address things like the climate emergency in a way that allows us to be faster in the rollout? And the reality is, the traditional way of expanding rapid transit in the region was not going to be able to help deliver as quickly as we need to currently. I think one of the challenges that we also have in the region is, we're not familiar with other forms of rapid transit. We have SkyTrain and we have traditional bus service, and I think TransLink and the Mayor's Council do have some work to do to really actually help Metro Vancouver understand how bus rapid transit can really be a high quality rapid transit service that is significantly different than what we would consider traditional bus service to help serve our region. So we have some work to do to help kind of build consistency, build support across the region to really see this as a viable option in the region.
Do you have a follow-up?
I'll just add to that quickly that so a couple things. One is we heard loud and clear at the Transport 2050 that people need solutions now, right? We have an affordability crisis, we have a climate crisis now. And BRT can achieve a lot of those rapid transit goals that we could see also with SkyTrain from a operations standpoint, from a moving people standpoint, from an economic development standpoint that we think we can act on quickly. I'll also just add that BRT technology has changed over the last decade. So we've seen advancements in implementation, best practices in implementation, whether it's at stations or at vehicles, really connecting to have a seamless customer experience. And so, we believe today is absolutely the right time for bus rapid transit.
Do you have a follow-up?
Sorry, I'm just going to ask one more. Are you able to give us an example of how long it takes to implement one of these stations and change a already dedicated piece of road into a rapid bus transit road?
Sure, happy to do that. I think as we've taken a look at bus rapid transit, what we see is that bus rapid transit on average, a new line takes roughly 2 to 4 years to fully implement a new line. But we know that SkyTrain can take upwards of 10 years between planning, engineering, design, construction. It's a much more substantial project. And so we believe we can get up to 9 corridors, BRT corridors completed over the next 10 years.
And I believe the next question is from Francis Beal.
Hi, Francis from the Globe. I feel like we're all asking sort of the same question, but this is going to be a really new look. And unlike SkyTrain, it will be on the road, it will take up some road space. So I'm sort of asking the same question, but a little bit further along. Like how do you think the public's going to react to this, and how much extra work will you have to do to get them to get on board that time? Sorry.
So it is very new to the region. It's a new type of technology, and I think that's one reason why we're here today, right? This is a proposal, and we want to hear back from the public. Any of these bus rapid transit projects that we're talking about that will involve intense community engagement, working with the business community, working with partners, doing that close evaluation of impacts on traffic and on communities. I don't sit here saying that it's going to be easy, but I think we all sit here knowing the affordability crisis, the housing crisis, the climate crisis that we are in, and we have a need to act now. And I think we've heard regional support for that. We need to get into the details with folks about these lines, but I think we are very confident that we'll have support.
Do you have a follow-up, Francis?
Oh, yeah. Can you, I know you don't want to give everything away and there's a lot of stuff in the hopper, but you keep talking about a completely new way of investing in transit, meeting new partners. Can you give people some clue what that means? Is it developers contributing to building, help the cost of lines and stations? Is it a complete restructuring of of, I don't know, the entire financing system or what?
We need to have a larger conversation about the revenue sources that TransLink has traditionally relied upon. I think we've seen through the pandemic that we've had provincial and federal partners that have very closely aligned objectives around climate change and affordability. But from a revenue perspective, those are larger conversations we need to have. We don't sit here today with some of the tools that we need, and I think it is working with our partners. I think it could come from municipalities, it could come from working with developers, but I think what you're getting at is we will need to be creative with revenue opportunities in the future. The fact is that operating a lot more bus service will take a lot more operating dollars. We've got to take a new look at that model. The capital funding, there's some traditional streams that we can figure out, but that operating piece we will have some work to do.
Yeah, I think it is a crucial question. I think we recognize that the traditional way that we fund public transit in the region is likely going to make it very difficult to achieve such a bold vision and a bold plan to improve public transit. So we are going to have to look at doing things a little bit differently. Traditionally relying upon things like property taxes really aren't going to be a sustainable way to be able to fund a plan like this. We need to look for creative funding solutions with different levels of government. We need to look at partnerships, and Francis, you alluded to potential developer contributions helping to that. We recognize that transit investment actually leads to more development, and I think this region needs to do a better job of actually capturing some of that wealth that comes from that, and actually helping use that funding to help invest in the transportation and help pay for that. So I think there are a variety of different mechanisms, and we're really encouraged that although we don't have specific solutions here today, that the provincial government has been very clear that they want to actually have a real genuine conversation in the future about how do we do things differently, and how do we fund an ambitious and important plan that we all agree about in a way that's sustainable and can work in the future.
Do you have another follow-up, Francis?
I don't want to take up all the time.
Then we have another one over here. I just couldn't see who it was. Yep.
Cole Schisler, Black Press. Municipal elections are coming up, and I anticipate this will be a pretty hot-button issue. How much do you think the municipal election and campaigning is going to be a factor in how this plan actually plays out in reality?
Yeah, well, we have spent a lot of time in the development of Transport 2050 and in what we're announcing here with the 10-year priorities, really developing consensus across the mayors across the region. We do have an upcoming election in the fall period, and issues like climate change, issues like transportation and congestion, those are all going to be critical issues in the upcoming election. I'm hopeful that this is a plan that all folks kind of putting their name forward can really dig into and hopefully actually support, because although I'm really excited here to be launching this 10-year priority plan, it's going to need the support of the next mayor's 10-year plan to actually transform it into reality.
And after the municipal elections, that will leave you with a pretty stable governance at the municipal, provincial, and federal level. Planning to implement all of this starting 2024, 2025. Are you confident that that stable governance environment will give you the environment that you need to get those funding commitments nailed down?
I think the scene is actually set really, really well for the implementation of this work. I think the reality is local governments, provincial government, and federal government are all kind of coalescing on a number of important issues, whether it's tackling the climate emergency, whether it's dealing with population and the growth of our local economies, and tackling congestion. These are all important issues to all levels of government, and I'm feeling really confident that all three levels of government seem to be aligning with the priorities, and now we've got the roadmap, and so I'm certainly hoping after the municipal election we're going to be able to hit the ground running and very quickly work on actually implementing this plan.
We got one. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Wilkina from Radio Canada. Just to give us a better idea, what's next now? So we have the plan. There's a survey, May 4th, until May 4th. Just tell us what's next, what's going to happen, and when we can see maybe one of those priorities.
Sure. So thanks for the question, because we are looking to receive as much public feedback as we can on this proposed plan of priorities over the next couple of weeks. So we're asking for the public to go to our website, check it out, and to comment on the plan. That's really the first step. That will then go back to, based on those comments, we'll revise the plan, take it to the mayor's council or the board for review and potential approval. And then we'll move forward very quickly and spend the next year or so in starting to do the business casing and planning work around these projects, with implementation in the next couple of years.
And just for a follow-up, my coworkers all asking for the cost. And I know there's no specific numbers right now, but I can imagine when we are going to see customers, they will ask the same question. So if you can just give us a better idea of how much it's gonna cost, all those good ideas.
So, I think what today is all about is putting these priorities out here, right? We've taken the 30-year plan, we've taken roughly a third of it, and we've said, here's what we think the priorities should be over the next 10 years. Costs are very variable right now, and as we look into every individual corridor, every individual project, we'll be costing it out at that time, and then working with our partners, municipalities, senior levels of government to figure out the funding. So I don't have a cost for you sitting here today. That's something that will come as we develop every single project, which is very individual.
Anybody else on the floor? Otherwise, we'll turn to the phones. Anybody on the floor? You can always come back, so just get one of the mics. See it? I'm going to turn to Carolyn on the phone lines now. We'll see if we can hear you. I'm going to turn to the phones.
We'll be on the line. To choose questions, please press *1 and we'll touch telephone now. There appears to be no questions on the phone at this time.
And that concludes our media event today. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all so much.